Swing and a miss, strike three, and the ball game is over. The Mariners split the series against the homeless A's, and they go to 2-2 going into the series against the Tigers. Bryan Woo will get the win. Julio Rodríguez with that 2-run home run. Andres Munoz with the save, and it wasn't pretty, but sometimes you'd rather win ugly than lose pretty.
Well, this was an ugly win all the way around, but a win is a win. It doesn't matter exactly if it was pretty or if it was ugly or if they dominated. The end result is the Mariners moved to 2-2. For the most part, the Mariner offense was largely ineffective all game long, and it just so happens that Julio gets his bat, he gets ahead of the bat out front and puts it in the stands for a 2-run shot. And that was it. That's all. That's all that was required today. Although you would have loved to seen the Mariners get the bats going far more than we saw. It looks like for me, I guess for me, the player of the game, yes, obviously it's Julio Rodríguez with the 2-run shot. But outside of that, Victor Robles was 2 for 4 today. But for the most part, this is the middle of the lineup. Okay. Julio Rodríguez was 1 for 3. Cal Raleigh was 1 for 3. Randy Arozarena was 0 for 3. Mitch Garver 0 for 3. Donovan Solano 0 for 3. This is a team that decided that they weren't going to be, players in the offseason, that they were going to run this back, and so the onus is on these players to do more than just the bare minimum. And when you have these type of games, it does not lend to confidence that this team is going to be able to do what they were designed to do. They're still having issues hitting the fastball, which is unbelievable to me. It's just like, I give them credit. They won today. I think Bryan Woo did himself a very good favor by settling the game after the home run. So for me today, yes, Julio Rodríguez hit the 2-run home run, but for me, I think the player of the game today probably had to have been Bryan Woo.
Bryan Woo, when he had the very shaky start, had allowed some men on base. Very bad fielding, too, by the likes of Dylan Moore. Did give up that home run to Tyler Soderstrom, which, by the way, he has almost as much home runs as Aaron Judge. And this is a guy from the frequent A's. But after that, he settled down, got some strikeouts. I do think he should have gotten one more inning to just rest the bullpen, because tomorrow, Mariners have Emerson Hancock to start, and usually when Hancock starts, bullpen gets busy. Nonetheless.
But think about this though. Bryan Woo had to, in his first 3 innings, you have the J.P. Crawford error in the first, you have the Dylan Moore no throw, and then you have the Randy Arozarena bobble, and so Bryan Woo had to work out of jams in the first 3 innings. And was able to do that before the Soderstrom home run. But then after the home run, he settled in and was able to get it to the bullpen. Julio did what he had to do. And so, I want to give this team credit, but for the most part, this should not have been a game where, it should not have been a 1-1 win. The Mariners were in a position to do some damage off of J.P. Sears. But again, J.P. Sears pitched well. Pitched well, man.
I mean, credit to the A's. They did play very well in this series. I would say that they played much more efficiently than the Mariners. It's just that in those 2 games, Mariners just happened to have luck go their way. Aside from that, Game 2 and Game 3, the A's literally just had them handled.
Yep, absolutely. And so it's nice because the Mariners show a little resiliency to be able to split this one. And now I think, when you look at the schedule, and let's go ahead and pull that up real quick.
Tigers are the next team, which always gives the Mariners trouble. They've been giving them trouble even in their crap days.
Well, the way I look at it is you have what? You have the Tigers on, you have the Tigers and the Giants.
Tigers and Giants are next, and after that's going to be Houston. So it's going to be a challenge because it's going to be against teams that the Mariners do tend to struggle against. It feels.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the good news is that the Tigers have gotten off to a slow start, so I guess that plays a little bit uh, in the uh, in the
It also
Mariners'
depends
favor,
who's pitching too.
right? I Yeah, I think the Tigers right now are what they started the season 0-3. Um, you know, they're
I
looking to
saw
get off.
that.
They're looking to get off the schneid. But that being said, you get the Giants in San Francisco before returning home against the Astros and the Rangers. Those 6 games between those two Texas teams before they finally get a breather with the Reds. Like this is an opportunity for the Mariners to really do some to do something with these next six games before you have to play the Rangers and the Astros. I will say this, that especially against the Tigers, there should be no excuse. This should be a 2 out of 3 type of situation for the Mariners.
Well, here's what I'm saying. I would say I would like to think that the Mariners do have a chance to go 2 of 3 in both those series. But
Absolutely.
but Tigers have Skubal, so at least
Yeah.
you have to win your first 2 games. You have to win that, no excuses. Like I don't expect to win on Wednesday because you have Castillo and Skubal, which is a pretty bad combination. Then in
I
San
like
Francisco,
I yeah. I like
then
Tarek
it's
Skubal. I like Skubal. I like Tarek Skubal, but that being said, it's not like he's, Paul Skeens or anything like that, right? So like the way I look at it is, and especially if the Mariners can be aggressive early, because Skubal will throw you some heat, right? So it's not like he's got the biggest thing with Tarek Skubal is you don't want to get him into an early rhythm because that's when he's unhittable. But if you can disrupt him a little bit early in counts, early in the game, you might have a shot. But I'm 100% with you though. That matchup, Castillo versus Skubal, doesn't play into the Mariners' favor. But this is a Detroit Tigers team that's going to be beatable. As far as the Giants go, historically the Mariners do pretty well in San Francisco. It's not a park that they're unfamiliar with, but it's also not a team against the Giants that are also world beaters as well too. So the Giants are also very beatable.
matchup wise though. They're gonna go up against Verlander between Miller, Bryan Woo against Robbie Ray, and Emerson Hancock against Hicks. So I would say I don't think we're gonna win the Verlander one, but you gotta at least win the one against Ray and Hicks. But the problem is Ray
I don't know,
knows
man.
half the team.
I don't know, man. My whole issue with this isn't Verlander even when Verlander was with Houston, right? This isn't prime Verlander. And the Mariners have beaten Justin Verlander before.
Been a long time
Granted,
though.
granted, it was far and few in between. I think they beat him in 2021. I
It was
think
maybe
that
22.
no, it's 21 because I went to the game over my birthday where they played the Astros and we beat Verlander 2-1. But uh, what I will say is that this is set up for the Mariners to do something special in these next 6 games. And I will say that there should be no excuses to lose to Robbie Ray. I will say this. And the reason why I say this is because, yeah, you're right. They do. Robbie Ray does happen to know is definitely familiar with some of these guys in the lineup. But that being said, we're also very familiar with Robbie Ray. And he's going to do everything in his power to try to strike everybody out, which means he's going to throw a lot of pitches. The only thing you need to beat Robbie Ray is patience.
Then there's that old saying, you know us, but we know you.
That's exactly right. I would like ideally I'd like to see them go 4-2 in the 6 game stretch. I think it's definitely doable for this team. And then going 4-2 gives them 6 wins going into the Texas and Houston series. But also I'm curious to see exactly how the Mariners attack Houston. It's a team that they've always circled on their calendar over the course of the last couple of seasons. They seem to play. They seem to show up and play their best against the Astros in Seattle. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And any other takeaways from the game? It didn't really seem much. It's like Julio bailed them out. Bryan Woo basically carried the team, and
Yeah,
bullpen
I
actually held on.
I will say this that this is this is the way the Mariners start. They don't start fast, and it takes them a couple weeks really to kind of get into the season. So from that standpoint, it was pretty much par for the course as far as I'm concerned with the Mariners. I would have liked to see more than 2 guys in the lineup do some damage. This lineup was set up to get the best of JP Sears, and again, this what was disappointing was seeing that guys like JP Crawford swinging through fastballs, Dylan Moore swinging through fastballs, and it's like, dude, there was a time where you wouldn't last in the big leagues if you couldn't hit a fastball. And this is a trend that I'd like to see them reverse. But good Lord, man, it was painful to watch at times today. So even after Julio hit the 2-run shot, this team kind of reverted back to its norms, and that's to me is disturbing to see.
Yeah, like don't let that 2-2 fool you. Like I think they should have at least gone 3-1, but I think 2-2 is probably the most realistic possible, just knowing how the offense played. Like so much swings and misses. Just
well, even in opening in opening night, even on the opening night win, that still was a tight game until the home run bailed them out. And again, this was another game where the home run bailed them out. It's like you have to figure out a way to manufacture runs when the home run is not there, and they have the speed in the lineup to be able to do it. There was an opportunity, like I can't remember the inning, but the Mariners had a runner on first base where they had a guy in the bottom of their lineup, and I want to say it was like Dylan Moore. It's like you have a runner on first with Dylan Moore, drop one down and move one over. You know what I mean? It's like Dylan, like that's the thing. It's like it's the little things to get runners into scoring position. And if you don't want to take the bat out of a guy like Dylan Moore's hands by dropping a butt, then put the hit and run on. You know what I mean? Put some guys in motion. And actually force the pitcher to make a pitcher's pitch, which is usually like what, middle in. Force your opponent to actually pitch to you instead of it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to me. You know what I mean? It's like these are the things that you learn. These are the things that you learn in Little League, right? Where it's like if you want to get the better of your opponent, make them play your game. And this is something that has been a bugaboo of mine over the course, even in 2022 when we went into the playoffs. They're still playing a game where it's like they're allowing their opponent to dictate the way to play the game, and then they're playing the entire game reactionary. It's like, why don't you be proactive and actually be the aggressive team? Like they have the talent to do it, they just don't do it. So
they just don't do it. And I guess another thing I want to tackle into is, because I guess we might as well just do this entire series at this point. Like, what were your thoughts on Dan Wilson's pitching management? And let me go over it. I'll go over it in entirety. Logan Gilbert was pulled after not even 90 pitches. I think it was barely even 80. And that was been like, okay, fine. But he didn't let, like, he made Trent Thornton pitch, but he didn't let like Colin Snyder or Gregory Santos pitch, which that really puzzled me. And then after that, then he was constantly pitching the likes of Edward Bizardo and a lot of Carlos Vargas we saw, which he's already shown his issues through minor leagues. So just by that, it made me question, like, what is Dan Wilson doing? Like at one point, I felt really confused. Like I was confused whether this was Scott Service or Dan Wilson managing the team.
Yeah, hold on real quick. So as far as like the handling of the starters, this is nothing new because we've seen this. We've seen this happen over the course of the last 5 years, where in the first couple weeks of the season, they have their pitches restricted, and the reason why they do this is they want to have a long burn about getting their starters up to 90 plus pitches, right? So you don't want to now in the inverse is the Oakland A's had no problem having JP Uzziers pitch 7 innings. Like he was rolling even when he gave up the 2-run bomb, he still went 7. But that's how the Mariners approach their starting rotation. It's a slow burn. So even though that Logan Gilbert didn't even touch 90, even though Bryan Woo didn't even touch 80, they're going to err on the side of caution and just use their bullpen. And I don't think this is a Dan Wilson issue, and I don't think this was a Scott Service issue. I think this is a Jerry Dipoto issue. I think there is a rule on high where early in the season you're not going to stretch your pitchers out, even if their pitch count is still in good shape. And this is something where they want to tread lightly until you get into May and June, where you're going to start seeing starters hit that 100 pitch plateau. The inverse on that is you're going to use your bullpen, and this is something that has been a bugaboo of mine as well too. Like if you don't want to overuse your bullpen, then allow your starters to actually be starters.
And look what happened to Matt Brash. He was used a ton in 23, and next thing you know, Tommy John happens, and Andres Munoz even had some problems too in the 23 season.
Yeah, and to me, it's a problem. In game 2, Castillo goes 5. I think he had 83 pitches, gives up 2 runs, and then I think the 6 went to Santos, and then you had Taylor Saucedo and Eduardo Pizarro. But at that point, the Mariners were down by that. I can understand the want to use a guy like that when you're down, and you're trying to minimize it. But at that point, here's the weird thing, right? And this is another thing that I didn't necessarily understand was you have better pitchers to keep a game tight out of your bullpen, whether that be Trent Thornton or whether that be a guy like Colin Snyder. I was fine with a guy like Gregory Santos, and by the time Vargas came in, the Mariners were already out of that game in game 2, and I was perfectly fine with Vargas getting garbage time, getting a garbage inning at the end of a loss. But that being said, it's like, for me, the only time that you should use a guy like Eduardo Pizarro is when you're down 5 runs or more. Like in a situation where you're trying to keep your opponent from scoring runs, you have better middle relievers at your disposal than a guy like Eduardo Pizarro. He came in, what happened? He gave up 2 runs.
He kind of has that. I guess he found the Bobby Ayala playbook, because remember Bobby Ayala, he was pitching in way too many leverage situations. But hey, he dated Lou Pinella's daughter, and I guess Edward Pizarro must have done something to get what he needed of playing time.
And then what I liked was that in yesterday's ball game, you still allow Bryce Miller to pitch into the 6th inning. He throws 90, gave up 3, and that's when you see Colin Snyder and you see Gabe Spire, where in the game before, when you're trying to hold the A's to 2, that probably would have been better to go righty lefty matchup out of your bullpen with guys like Colin Snyder and Gabe Spire. It was like the right usage of the bullpen in the wrong game. And then they bring in Pizarro for an inning and a third, or inning and 2/3 on back-to-back days. And I tend to agree with you. Like when it comes to the bullpen usage within this series, there was a couple head scratchers, but as far as starters go, like I don't have it is what it is. Like this is going to continue as long as Jerry Dipoto is still
GM
is still running the front office. There's going to be certain cornerstones that he believes in, and that he expects his manager to abide by, and that is not trying to burn out your starters early in the season or potentially bring injury into it. So you're not going to see them stretch out, even if they go 5 innings and they're having shutout baseball and they have a pitch count that's like, they've only, they're getting ground ball outs, they're getting fly ball outs, and by the time the 5th inning rolls around, they're really at 55 pitches. They're still going to get pulled. You know what I mean? Like, that's even on the high side, even on the best of sides, they're still going to get pulled. I don't know, make it make sense to me, but that's just the way that this operates. Our guy Ian is in the chat room here. He said, "Let's be honest, boys, we still can't hit. Julio had a nice hit, but still is taking bad pitches, and Hack's lineup needs to produce more." Oh yeah, so we share the same.
I think a lot of people should be sharing the same thing. And he did say on the bright note that Bryan Woo is legit and pitched really well, which he really did.
Yeah, I think we've known that Bryan Woo is legit. But again, it gets back to Julio, right? And again, I will say it till I will say it till hell freezes over. The worst thing that the Mariners did for Julio Rodríguez was giving him that extension in his rookie season before he had actually earned it, because it changes your mentality as a player. And it also does bring in comfortability and complacency because he has nothing to work for. And now you're throwing the pressure of being the face of the franchise on a guy who has still yet to prove himself. And we're seeing the type of performances that he has. I agree with it. I agree with them. He's not only is he taking bad pitches, but he's also swinging through good pitches. The fact that he's still swinging on the first pitch, and again, like if these were pitches that were actually in the hitting zone and he was putting bat to ball, that's one thing. But when you see him chasing bad pitches on the first pitch and getting himself in early holes, it still shows that this dude does not have the maturity yet. And we're going to see bad stretches from Julio Rodríguez this year.
He typically never has a good April, and his best April was actually in 2023. And then at the time, that's when we were considering that as his down year. And now we're considering it as his second best season because 24 was easily his worst season.
Yeah. The crazy thing is it's one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to you want to make sure your players are, it's like, it's chasing the carrot, right? You want them to have these, you want them obviously you want them to stay there long term, especially with good young talented kids. But the one thing you don't want to do is put them in a position where they feel comfortable. Comfortability is the worst thing it's one of the worst things that kills players, because now there's nothing necessarily to work for. Do you think Julio Rodríguez gives a shit that this team has never been to a World Series? Do you really think he gives a shit?
I mean, look at what he does on Instagram. He's always talking like he's flirting with Jen Mueller. I mean, JP Crawford's even feeding off of it, because remember the pregame, he was chucking bubble gum or sunflower seeds or peanuts at Ryan Bliss and Jen Mueller, and I was like, hey, we got a game to play for. I know you're having fun, and I know you said that, but at least when you're starting, get serious. Especially when you're down 2-1 in the series.
It's Ian says he's got a really hot take for you. Go ahead. I want to hear this hot take. Josh asks, would you rather be Julio, who got the money and the Rookie of the Year contract, or Pena, who doesn't have money but the CS and a World Series MVP and ring?
I'll be Pena. I don't want that much of attention.
What's the CS?
What is CS? Wonder what that is.
Yeah, but obviously I would rather have Julio with the World Series MVP and a ring, obviously.
No, but I think he was asking if he...
Yeah. Oh, the championship series.
No, I think he's asking like if you'd rather be... I think we've all agreed that we'd rather be Pena. Either way, you're still millionaire. You're still rich man.
Yeah. Send it I feel like half of our lineup is swinging for the fences. If they dialed back and focused on taking good pitches, I feel like our RBI average would skyrocket 100%. The
Yeah,
biggest problem with this lineup is they don't know how to use the entire field.
but yet there's this narrative that, oh, it's the marine layer's fault because it keeps going to the warning. Well, maybe don't hit for home runs so much, right? Oh, but what
Right. Well,
about the
right.
batter's eye?
A lot of these guys are focused on having that, and I said this last year when it was visibly obvious that this team has a lot of guys in their lineup who feel like if they don't produce, this team is not going to win. I think they have a lot of those guys who feel like they have to do something special in order for this team to win. When in reality, is you have a guy behind you that is equally as capable of doing the same things as you. And that's the thing. It's like this team does not do the little things at all, and it's obvious, right? So yeah, these guys are more focused on being on Sports Center, hitting a 2 or 3 run home run instead of actually maybe working the count, taking a walk, getting on base, putting themselves in a position to score run, knowing that the guy behind you is still equally as capable of driving you in. 100%. Like that's the thing. It's like if this team was far and away focused on having better at bats and not focusing on actually just hitting a home run, this team would be these guys would be playing so much better.
And Ian says hot take, and after this we're going to take off. But he said hot
Sure.
take is I'd almost bench Julio until he can hit for average, not just a single home run once every 10 to 12 at bats.
Yeah. Well, there was a time where, and it's funny because you hear some of these old time guys talk, right? Where Junior would say like, listen, man, like if you were taking a called third strike and not even taking a cut on it, or if you were striking out nearly at the clip, you would be down in Tacoma quick. Like, that's the thing. It's like with a dude like Lou Piniella, his whole focus was on contact. Like contact was very big. Now it didn't matter if you grounded out to shortstop, just as long as you put bat to ball. And if you didn't have that ability to consistently put bat to ball, you would not play. You would not even be in Seattle. And I think the reason, one of the biggest reasons is number one, I think the money is very prevalent because a lot of these guys are getting paid. And so once you get paid, there is a level of comfortability where for a fact that your spot is not going to be taken. And so I think complacency plays a big factor. And I'm not saying that they don't care, but they're not working on the little things that make them better. I think some of these guys on this baseball team are just thrilled with being Major League Baseball players.
And the other thing I also wanted to add too, with this whole flashiness and the whole fundamentals thing, is when Randy Arozarena hit that home run, I was like, okay, cool. But what really struck me was, and I'm not surprised that they do it, but it's kind of disappointing that they still keep doing it. Randy spent quite a bit of a time circling the baseball diamond, and he was kind of doing all that flashy celebration. Like, I was like, just go to home plate, give high fives, take a trident, and shut up. Like he was being way too flashy about it.
Do you remember Jose Lopez?
Jose Lopez, the All-Star of 2006.
That was his problem, was the fact that he thought that he can get by on his talent alone. And early in his career, he had some pretty good seasons. But as the seasons pulled on, he never worked on the little things that would consistently keep him in the big leagues and even make him a better player. Like, so I question, it's not just the work that you do when you step to the ballpark, it's also the work that you do outside of the ballpark and the things that you prioritize. Like a good example of this was Kyle Seager, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. He was almost cut from the same cloth as dudes like Edgar Martinez and John Allroot and Raul Ibanez and some of these guys, where the work didn't end when you left the ballpark. Like he would literally spend time at home going over scouting reports and going over pitchers that he was going to face coming up in the series. So he had a good understanding about how pitchers were going to work from and where he can play to his strengths. And that's why Kyle Seager had such a solid career, because that dude was constantly working. It paid off because he got the big extension. And even when he got the extension, he still continued to do that. And it's Send It Here is asking, this issue has been an issue for years. It begs the question, what the core issue really is. Ownership? Well, no, because the owners aren't playing. And it's also not coaching, because the coaching isn't playing, right? The coaches can only do so much. They can install a philosophy. They can try to motivate you as much as you want, but the issue is the players that are on the field. So it begs the question, number one, is it a youth issue that kids today don't have the work ethic of the players of the past? We can definitely have that conversation, because I wonder what the work ethic is. And number two, it's like, do they really give a shit about whether or not they improve? Is this an issue of what they feel like their talent is going to be able to carry them along, and never actually learn how to play the game of baseball and learn how to get better as a baseball player? Is this about just being a big leaguer and attracting hot blondes with big tits, and you're going to end up with the trophy wife? Is that what your motivation is? Is it the money? What's your motivation? What is it that gets you to come to the ballpark every single day? What is it? You're right. I mean, us as fans, our motivation is we finally want to see this team win a World Series, get to a World Series and win one. That is our expectation, and that is our high bar mark. But the question is, I always ask this question: do the players give a shit that the Mariners are the only team that has never appeared in a World Series? Do they really give a shit, and is that their motivation?
I mean, just
because you would have to agree that the last 2 years, when the Mariners were spinning their wheels as a fringe bubble team, the talent alone was good enough to get there. So what was it that caused them not to?
lack of fundamentals is what they have. And when they're swinging for fences, that's why you have the whole victimization of the Marine layer, which I am so tired of it. Like, there are so many of those reporters and so many of the fans that are willing to defend that. And it's like, wait, but didn't you forget that we had literally fences coming in for the 2013 season?
Right.
So it's not the
issue,
Marine layer.
No, it's there's guys that are so hardcore fans that will give this team all the excuses in the world. And what's funny about this is that when I think of ownership, and Send It Again says, when I say ownership, I'm more so saying a top-down issue, potentially 100%, but it's not just the issue of shallow pockets, right? It's the issue of championships, and that winning mentality comes from the top down. And it's also, what is your motivation as an owner? We know the motivation of this owner is profit, and that is it. Like, their idea of winning is having 3 million plus fans come through, and them making the franchise valuation continue to go up. That's their idea of winning, because when they eventually sell it, they're going to end up with $5 billion, right? So that's their motivation. Whereas other teams, that could be their motivation, but it's also, there is an expectation of winning. And it's the way that you develop players. It's the people that you hire. Like, do you hire good baseball people? Do you spend your money there? Which is, why do you think I've been shouting? Why do you think I've been shouting through the roof to have a guy like Theo Epstein run this team? Because not only is he fiscally responsible, but the dude knows how to build winning teams.
He ended 2 curses. Well, I think that's, well, okay, there's one more from Ian. After this, we got to cut it, but no excuses. I want change. I'm over the same old, it's time. The city of Seattle, the fans all over start to make ownership work to get us to the ballpark every night, and the players themselves.
I will say this, that if you don't like the ownership, fair enough. But the thing about it is every single time that you go to the ballpark and you pay that's exactly what they want. The best way to do it is for a United Mariner fan base to say, hey, listen, dude, we're not going to pay tickets. We're not going to pay parking. We're not going to pay concessions. We're not buying merchandise. That's how you do it. Like if you want to send a message, you send it to his pocketbook. That's what you do. And you basically unite a united fan base saying, this is not acceptable. This is not an acceptable way. We want a World Series. And by the way, then Josh says, but then they will leave. No, they won't, because they have a lease. They're not going anywhere. And the city of Seattle will never let them leave anyway. Would never let them leave. The best way to do it is to hit them where it hurts. Hit them where it hurts the most, which is in the pocketbook. And if the Mariner fan base was united in saying that this is unacceptable, and we know that you print money. Like if they wanted to compete with the Dodgers dollar for dollar for the best players in baseball, they could. They just choose not to.